Hello, this is Dan Gelbtuch, the co-director of philanthropy at Episcopal City Mission. Really grateful to be here with you all. This is part of our Sounds of Solidarity series where we get to interview wonderful grassroots leaders who are bringing together grassroots power building work and spirituality and healing connected to our Finding Our Way Home grant making program, which we give out grants to Burgess Urban Fund grantees who are interested in bringing more healing resources, more spiritual resources into alignment with their power building work. And so really excited for our guest today, Kevin Lam, who is one of the co-directors at AARW, Asian American Resource Workshop, longtime community organizer in Boston, who's going to share a little bit about themselves and then a little bit about their work at AARW to, again, bring together spirituality, healing, movement building. So Kevin, maybe just by way of introduction, say a few words about yourself and what brings you to justice work.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Kevin, Kevin Lam. I use he or they pronouns. I'm the co-executive director with AARW. And yeah, I've been at the organization now for 8.5 years, initially entering into the organization as the youth program coordinator running our Vietnamese youth young adult leadership program, then transitioned into the organizing director under the first actually Trump admin when we started doing our work around Southeast Asian deportation in the state. And then in the past year, 2 years, have transitioned into the co-executive director role at the organization. And yeah, I think just to share a little bit around how I came into social justice movement work. Yeah, I'm a child of Southeast Asian refugees. My dad and mom fleeing the war in Southeast Asia, having to escape war and genocide at the hands of US military intervention and resettled in Poughkeepsie, New York. And that is where I was born and raised. And because of the refugee resettlement process, my family and Southeast Asian refugees didn't necessarily have a choice of where folks were being resettled to. And so as I was growing up here, we were the only Southeast Asian family in Poughkeepsie in the neighborhood. It was my mom's family and my immediate family that was here where I was growing up. And so I think for the longest time, just hearing about some of those experiences that my family had to go through in terms of trying to survive really informed a yearning that I also had to really connect with other Southeast Asian American communities outside of my family. And so really came into movement work at the age of 21 after college, and started doing queer Southeast Asian youth work at the Providence Youth Student Movement in Rhode Island. And that was really my entry into organizing and movement work, working with queer Southeast Asian young people as also kind of a queer Southeast Asian young person myself in my early 20s, who was still navigating a lot. And I think for me, yeah, being able to connect with other Southeast Asian folks for the first time in like 21 years, I think really created a lot of space for me to do a lot of my own deepening of my political ed and analysis and being able to really learn about grassroots organizing. So we were doing work with queer Southeast Asian young people, doing work to fight against racial profiling and gang violence and police brutality, and the ways in which police were labeling our young people as quote unquote gang members. And that was really some of the campaign work that I was involved in. And then, yeah, fast forward a little bit, I think just the ways in which that was really informative to my own personal and transformative journey in my life and the identities I held and the relationships in my life. I think that has always been what grounded me in my commitment to movement work. So that was really how I got into it. And then, yeah, at ARW, for the first Trump admin was really a moment in which we were able to really hone in on our anti-displacement framework, really organizing around issues of housing justice and immigration deportation, and particularly working with Southeast Asian refugees and immigrants who had also escaped Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia during the war, but that at that point, 20 years later, were now facing mass detentions and deportations to the countries in which many of them escaped and had to leave. And so, yeah, so that's a little bit about the org and yeah, some of our work, but I think for us, really see ourselves as movement building, grassroots organization in the greater Boston area, really working to center working class communities within the Asian community in our ways around how we're trying to really build political power and organizing power to address all forms of displacement.
Wow. Thanks so much, Kevin. I feel like I've heard bits and pieces of your story, but to hear the whole thing is so powerful. And yeah, just thank you for the incredible work that you've been doing in Dorchester and beyond with AARW. And it's been really meaningful for me to see as a resident of Dorchester, and then obviously through the lens of Episcopal City Mission. So yeah, really, really grateful and to see your powerful work across the board. And then I know more specifically, we've been connecting around this work that you all have been doing at AARW to bring in healing resources, mental health resources into your community, into your organizing work. And so, yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing just a little bit about how Finding Our Way Home has been supportive to your organizing work at AARW, just your overall vision to make those connections between healing and movement work. And yeah, anything you can
Mhm.
share in that area, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no, at ARW, I personally and the organization, we really appreciated the Finding Our Way Home funds to really support healing and spiritual wellness. And for us, really see that as a core part of the ways in which we're really trying to organize our communities. And I think for us, really started to lean into some of this healing, spiritual wellness, mental health work really during the pandemic. I think between 2017 to 2020, again, under the first Trump admin, especially as it related to our work around Southeast Asian deportations, we were at the time only a two-staffed organization with a max of four folks by 2020, but that a lot those 4 years was really in deep rapid response mode, working on individual case campaigns, working directly with the impacted community member and their loved ones. And what we were seeing was that there were also moments that folks were being triggered by the actions of the Trump administration and the risk of potential detentions and deportations and being potentially ripped away from their loved ones, their community, and their homes. And so I think for us, ARW was both really on the front lines of that organizing around campaigns to push for like policy and structural reform and change while also really tending to the social emotional needs of each community member to really try to create a sense of community, deep community and relationship where folks were not feeling isolated because of the stigma of facing deportation due to a criminal record, right? And so, as we were doing this work, we started really seeing that there was also not just the organizing around like the violence that was happening, but how do we also tend to the healing that is needed for our community members, both from the war, but then also from the violence of the ICE detentions and deportations that were existing and rampant for the past 2 decades. And then the pandemic hit. And I think when the pandemic hit, and in a way in which we were trying to do so much in-person convening of folks to really build community and relationship to not be in isolation, we had to move to a place of complete social isolation because of the pandemic. And I think for us, really seeing the toll that it took on our community members and just their mental and emotional wellness. And so AirW started to work with some of our members within the spiritual wellness and mental health wellness practices to really convene a space to really hold space for the loved ones of directly impacted community members to really have finally some space and time to really sit, to build with each other, and to process a lot of what was coming up in those moments of organizing. And also, I think really through also a gender justice lens, where a lot of the loved ones were the wives, the partners, the women of our directly impacted men, to really have space to really build together and really feel supported. So I think for us, right, there was this gap around what does it look like to create a community-led mental health support space for our folks, where traditional and formalized clinical health and clinical mental health was really, again, stigmatized. And I think for us, seeing this as a way that was culturally responsive, where trust and relationship was already had with the organizations from both Southeast Asian refugee communities and also the undocumented Asian population that we were working with at that time, to really come together, to create spaces for folks to do some more emotional wellness work and healing work, with each other through a held container from our members and from our team. And then, I think for us, yeah, the Finding Our Way Home funds have also been really supportive, not just for our members, but actually for our staff, where our organization at the end of 2023, we went through organizational leadership transition, where our former co-ED had transitioned out by the end of the year. And so for us, really being able to have some of those funds to also create space for our team to really pause, to do some like reflecting and processing of that transition, and how do we really realign and re-norm ourselves as a different formation of a team at the organization. And also, yeah, I think start to really build up what are the skills that we need in this next period, to continue sharpening how we can organize to be able to show up for our communities, and being able to do that from a grounded place. And so yeah, the Finding Our Way Home work was really a way in which we were able to create space around alternative mental health, wellness, spiritual wellness spaces for our community members, but then also knowing that, yeah, there's always also internal shifts in the organization, that how do we also support the internal sustainability of the organization to continue going by making sure our staff are taken care of. Um, and I think, yeah, in this year, for us, really seeing the ways in which there's a need to deepen a lot of emotional resilience skills over this next 4 years, given what we experienced under the first Trump administration, and through, yeah, some of the reflections that I've had during that time, and during the time and where AARW was at as we were starting doing this work and the rapid response, the need to do some deeper emotional resilience skill development, not just for our team members on staff, but actually in doing that, how can we then actually really show up to train and skill up our members, to build up the grassroots power that we are really envisioning, not to just be responsive in this year, in the next year, in the next 4 years, but actually something that's sustainable beyond like a second Trump admin, right? And I think for us, yeah, Finding Our Way Home and those funds to really dig into some of those social emotional resiliency skills is really what we're excited about in this next year with the support from Finding Our Way Home.
Wow, what a beautiful vision, just to have it so integrated on with members and with the staff, and with this, yeah, vision that you just articulated about, like, yeah, things are really hard now and you need those resilience skills now, but then you just need them, for the long term. And again, just what I've seen from a little bit of a distance, but just the ways that that work, the resilience work is just so integrated into your organizing model. It's not like, oh, we have this here and that there, and it's beautiful, Kevin, and it's also just like a gift for the movement, because folks are learning from you directly. We're learning from you. Other organizers are learning from you. So it's a gift. Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your wisdom. Most importantly, just thank you for your organizing work, because it's so needed, especially now. But thank you for your thoughtfulness and just for your willingness to share your wisdom with the larger ECM community. I'm sure everyone will gain a lot of wisdom from your wisdom. So thank you, and really wonderful to discuss this with you today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for the space to be able to share.